On today's episode, we're talking how many books to print, print on demand, and why self-publishing made sense for me. Hey everybody, welcome to the pilot episode of AskComixTribe, the question and answer show about the craft and business of making and selling comics. I'm your host, Tyler James, but the real star of the show is you guys and your questions. So let's see what you got today.
I'm about to go to press, but the printer I had lined up has fallen off the map and won't return my emails. I'm starting to get worried. Do you have a printer you'd recommend that can do 100 copies of a 76-page book that isn't really crazy expensive?
Oh man, so that's a tough one, and printers going out of business or disappearing off the map has happened to me before. You always want to have multiple vendors, multiple suppliers, and not be too dependent on any one. At ComixTribe, we work with about 6 different printers. We use different printers for different projects, and so should any one of them go out of business or go belly up, well, it's not going to derail my plans too much. So I'm going to give you some specific printers to look at in a minute, but I want to take this time to talk a little bit about print on demand or POD printing, which is what you're going to be going with a print run of this size. 2 different kinds of printing. There's print on demand, which is basically exactly what it sounds. You only print the total number of books that you need at any given time, and you can print as little as 1 book with some printers. The other side of the coin is offset printing, which involves getting those big commercial presses up and running and churning out tons and tons of books. The rule of thumb with making the print on demand versus offset printing that I use is 500 books or less. You're probably going to be better off going with a print on demand printer. Once you get to about the 500 copy print run or higher, it's going to be more cost effective and more efficient for you guys to print overseas and use an offset printer to do that. The benefits of print on demand, or the good things about print on demand, is that yes, they allow you to do short print runs, sometimes as few as 1 copy. But most print on demand printers that you're going to be using are right here in the United States, so they can turn around relatively quickly. And it's a low total cost for printing, which for I think most comics creators are pretty budget conscious. So being able to put $100 in and get enough books to print for a con, that's a great thing. The disadvantages of print on demand is that there's a high marginal cost for each unit that you print. So a book a floppy comic that you do a print on demand, it might cost you $3.50 with shipping and everything per issue, and the most you can probably sell that comfortably for at a show is probably around $5. So the profit margins for print on demand books is pretty low, and what that means is that's going to limit your distribution options. Print on demand makes sense for comic conventions where you can sell directly to consumers, but if you had to sell in a wholesale or retail environment where you're giving a retailer 50% off the cover price, all of a sudden you're losing money. So print on demand is not a great option for that. And then the other sort of downside to print on demand is that the quality can sometimes be less than you would get from an offset print run. Some print on demand services do a very good job now, and so that's another reason why you're going to want to check out a bunch of different print on demand vendors, because the quality may vary. All right, back to your original question, who should you go with for this particular book? I'd suggest you look at 3 print-on-demand vendors, Kablam, RA Comics Direct, and then Amazon CreateSpace. I'd check out those 3. All of them have cost estimate calculators built into them, and you'll be able to see what the difference is, what sort of turnaround times you can expect, and make a decision based on that. Kablam is really good for the creator bringing his book to print for the first time. They have a lot of great templates, and the instructions are very good on there. RA Comics Direct I like because they have fast turnaround times and a lot of options for paper stock and other options for your books. So they're worth checking out. But I have a feeling that for this particular project, Amazon CreateSpace is going to make the most sense for you. And one of the benefits of working with them is that your book will be listed on Amazon as well. But again, I'd run the numbers on all three of the sites and find out what makes the most sense to you.
What do you think is a good number of copies to print for a first-time self-published color comic?
This is one of those questions where I wish I could just pop out a number like 147 and just blow your mind with knowing it right off the bat. But it's a tough question to answer because everyone's situation is going to be different. So rather than try to pull a number out of the hat, I want to talk about the questions you're going to want to ask yourself when setting a print run decision. It makes a big difference whether you're distributing through Diamond and trying to get into 200, 300 comic book shops around the country, or if you're just printing books for one small local show that's coming up, or trying to knock on a few local comic shops' doors and seeing if they'll take a couple copies off your hands. So that makes a big difference there. My guess is that it's going to be more towards the latter, and this being your first book, you're probably going to want to go with a print-on-demand service like we talked about on the show. I'd say most first-time comic creators at conventions, if it's a small show, you're lucky if you sell maybe 20 or 30 copies. If it's a bigger show, you might catch fire and sell maybe 100 copies if you're doing really well and you've got a nice pitch. But very rarely are you going to move more than that in one convention. So keep that in mind. But you also might be asking yourself, am I stocking up for the just one single show, or am I stocking up for the entire season? So that's another question to ask yourself when you're setting this print run. Related to that is the question of, well, how much money do I have, and how much of my capital am I willing to sink into inventory versus all the other things that cost money when you're trying to build a career in comics. You may not want to sink a lot of money into print runs, especially if you're doing print-on-demand printing, because the more you print with print-on-demand, it doesn't make that much of a difference in the overall amount per book that you're spending. Another question you want to think about is, how good is the book? And be objective about this. And also, is it done? A lot of times, and I've made this mistake myself, you're so excited, you have the book done, you've got a convention coming up, you've been rushing to get it finished for that convention, and you rush it to print, and you get it back, and you open it up, and oh crap, there's a typo. Worst feeling in the world. But you'll feel a lot better about yourself if you made a typo and printed 10 or 25 versus printing 3,000. So that's one thing you're going to want to look at. Definitely always try to get outside eyes to look at your files before you send them to printer. Know your print-on-demand service is not a proofreader. And then another thing to think about is, all right, as you're doing your estimates and making your plans, are there any discounts with the printer that you're using that going up a few extra copies will then lower your price? Some printers offer price breaks at like 100 copies or 250 copies or whatnot. So it's worth doing the math to see if there's anything that you can take advantage of there. So there you have it. There's some questions that you can ask yourself when setting your print runs. Feel free to let us know what you ended up going with and how the books ended up selling.
Why did you choose to go the self-publishing route and build ComixTribe instead of pitching your books to established publishers?
So the why build ComixTribe decision for me came down to basically three things. First, I've never been someone to want to wait around for someone else's permission to enable me to make comics, to tell stories, to get my books into shops and out there into as many readers' hands and in front of their eyeballs as possible. So the endless cycle of pitching and sending cold submissions to publishers that I don't know and have a relationship with, it seemed like a potentially a very frustrating thing. I didn't want to have to, have some decision maker or some gatekeeper be in charge of determining my career. That's not to say that I haven't pitched books to publishers in the past or won't pitch books to publishers in the future when that makes sense. And that sort of leads into the second reason, which is that I really wanted to know as much about this industry of comics as possible, and really find out what the hell publishers do. And I think the best way to do that was to actually just do it and go through the process of putting a book out through Diamond and learning that whole process and working directly with printers and finding out all the minutiae of all the different things that there are in this industry. That's a great way to figure out what you're good at, what you're not so good at, what you like doing, what you hate doing, and then figuring out what kind of people that you can bring in to help you do the things you're not so good at or don't particularly love. And then the third reason I wanted to build ComixTribe was to really build a company that was focused both on putting out great books, but then also teaching and explaining the process and helping other creators sort of learn about the process of getting books to market and self-publishing as we were learning it and as we go. And that's sort of the mission behind ComixTribe.com. And so I'm excited about having this show as another way to communicate and share some of what we learned on our journey. There's still plenty to learn, but it's been a great journey so far, and I'm really excited about where we're going. So thanks for asking about that. The talkback question of the day is, who is your favorite comic artist right now? Let me know in the comments section, and we'll get a discussion going. All right, that's our pilot episode in the books. I hope you got something from it. I enjoyed sharing my thoughts on those questions. If you'd like to get a question on the show, use hashtag AskComixTribe on Twitter, or shoot us an email at ask@comixtribe.com, and we'll see if we can't help you out. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the show, let us know in the comments, and hit that subscribe button. We'll be back with another show very soon. All right, take care. Hey everybody, welcome to the pilot episode of the Charlie! Come here, Charlie!